2016, 2017, by far the worst years of my career. The guest here today experienced something with me through those years that I won't put on blast here, but let's just say it was unprofessional. It was uncalled for. It should have never happened. Yet it affected the two of us, and we rode that out together. And there's no one else of all my friends that I would have wanted to go through that with because of her ability to kind of just brush her shoulders off. I'm just literally that's just for her. She can do that. I definitely just internalize everything. So it was a perfect balance to be able to take things seriously, but at the same time kind of go, yeah, whatever. This isn't going to change. So let's keep moving it forward. And you need people like that in your life who balance out where you are weak. So that's what Caroline Quat, our guest here today, did for me and does for me. The experience we shared, looking back, it bonded us for life. It's a situation that we can talk about off camera. If you have questions, you can ask me, but I'm not going to put that on public record as to what I'm talking about. But that situation, again, happened to both of us, and it made us better people in the sense that we will never put anyone else in that position. And we know who the types of people we want to be around at a workplace. And I think that something can come out of something ugly, something positive, and that is our friendship. And that is something that you're going to see in this episode, which is completely different from episode 1. The topic is focused more on what it's like to raise a baby in a pandemic. That's something that, man, those parents, bless their souls, because they are definitely dealing with something that my parents didn't have to deal with. So, episode 2, Caroline Quat, the craziest, strangest friend I probably have, but the perfect balance to my imperfections. So enjoy. And again, thank you for being here for In Your Atmosphere. Each of us has a figurative atmosphere. Those individuals we choose to spend our time with. But we need to ask ourselves, are those people willing to celebrate with us on our best day and stand with us on our worst day? Have they provided you with life lessons that can serve as a protection for you? My atmosphere is full of those whom I choose to surround myself with because they make me a better person. My name is Donovan Woods, and the purpose of this podcast is to shine light on some of their stories. I've personally either overcome challenges or I'm continuing to endure based on what I've learned from each and every one of them. Welcome to In Your Atmosphere. Caroline, thank you for being here. I appreciate you joining my little podcast series. How are you?
I'm fine.
I
feel like it's a loaded question. I feel like that's a loaded question. No, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your little podcast.
Yes, yay. Yes. And I love it. You're still like condescending, but upbuilding at the same time. My little podcast. I love it. Love it. Love it. Let me ask you this. And I've asked everyone this question. They won't know this and you won't see it until it's actually live. But why do you think I invited you to this podcast series?
Because I'm upbeat and condescending at the same time, and you need a little of that in your life. You need a little condescending friend who's also like, but you can do it at the same time. So I'm like pretty sure that's exactly why.
There's in my notes, I literally have that. I have condescending and here's the reasons why. I'll say this before your technical difficulties over there in Southeast DC mess us up.
Wow,
Northeast.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Talk about that.
Yes. Wow. Aren't you near Gallaudet? Isn't that near like Southeast?
Yeah, that's north. No, it's northeast. 100% northeast. Like super.
Okay, it's all east. It's all east to me on 66, so it's all good. I chose you for this little series. It's again called In Your Atmosphere. People who make me a better person. And for you, it's because you've always, since day one, I met you back in 2014. We worked together at NACS for about three or 4 years almost. I think you left in 2017 or when did they let you go? They let you go like the end of 17?
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah, they let me go. No, I quit, but it was the end of 2017.
You know what? Time passes. I get older. But anyway, no, the real reason, again, you challenge me. You've always challenged me, but not for the reasons people would think. You've always challenged me to really just be kinder to myself in terms of how I look at myself, how I value myself, my talent, whatever I have or don't have. See, I already did it. I just knocked myself already. But really, since the first time we met,
I was going to be condescending, but then I decided not to.
Nope. It's probably not good. I'm not in the right place. No. But you always helped me believe in myself, and whether it came to my perceived lack of education or actual lack of education, all those things that I would say were obstacles against myself, and I would put myself back, and you would always kind of be like, yeah, other people really aren't as smart as you think they are, and you can do it, and all this, yeah, you can do it. But you did it in a way that wasn't weird. It wasn't like Oprah, like, I believe in you. Oh no. It was always a corny Caroline way that made me laugh at the same time go, okay, she's right. So, and I've always appreciated that about you. So thank you. Thank you for making me a better person. And I'm glad I've decided to keep you in my life.
That is so kind. I'm not even going to say anything like rude or condescending back. That is just so kind of you.
Not yet.
Thank
not
you.
Yet.
I received that. From you.
Thank you. You deserve that. Now I wanted to get through this. We're probably going to be the quickest podcast we do in this series because your equipment's kind of janky. So that's a word from Georgia, I think. Janky.
It's all yours.
First, how is MJ? How's your mom? She's good?
She's doing well. Doing great.
Excellent. I always like to ask about her. She's a sweetheart. Now, when I met you, I never saw you as like wife material, and you defeated that. You went from Caroline Quat to Caroline Dolan, and I definitely never saw you as you did.
I'm Caroline Quat. I did not change my name. So
you didn't. That's right.
Yeah.
Your LinkedIn, I thought it was a mistake, but you don't love him that much. Okay. Seth is such a good guy. But the other thing is, being married, I could see it. Yes, I could see it. But having a baby,
weird.
I would have never thought. No, I still don't really believe he exists. I have met him, and I still don't think he was real. I think you released him.
Yep, nailed it.
How is that? How is it having a little baby? This is now being recorded at the end of 2021, and there was a little pandemic the year before that started off right around February, March of 2020. Was that exciting for you? Was it like ideal situations? Like, tell me about that. What was that like for you, getting pregnant, having a baby, all throughout all the craziest times of our lifetime?
There's both positives and negatives to it. I think that when people decide they're going to start a family or whatever, there's like all of these different things that come into it. And our timeline, because of the pandemic didn't change. We were kind of always thinking like 2020 was when we would start trying. We would whatever was going on in our lives, and a pandemic happened, and unfortunately, all the travel that we wanted to do in 2020 obviously was put on hold, and so that was kind of disappointing. That even though we were moving forward with something exciting in life, that there was a lot of stuff that was just put on hold. It was definitely really weird being pregnant at a time where you couldn't see people, you couldn't hang out with people, and I think we took the pandemic. I mean, this pandemic is still going on, and I'm one of those crazy people who think the pandemic is still going on and like does precautions. But we took it very seriously. We, not only did all of the exactly like hand sanitizer, like we were very careful with people. We would test, or we would be outside and be really far apart from people. We would mask everywhere. And being pregnant and not knowing how the virus would affect me if I were to get sick, because pregnancy is a pre-existing condition. Was a little scary at times, but it was also like we were not putting ourselves in any risky situations where I felt like really uncomfortable, or like scared for myself, because I was just like, well, like we're staying at home. I had a very easy pregnancy. There was no complications, like nothing like weird about it. So even though I was home all the time, like it just made an easy pregnancy that much easier, because like I could wear sweatpants and a sweatshirt like every day and like hop on video calls and like it not be weird. And, if I was tired, I could like take a nap during the day, or I could like put my feet up and like it not be weird, where if you were in an office, like all those things, and especially my office is an open office concept. So if I had to go into the office, like it would be like, oh, like Caroline's like napping in the conference room, which like would be kind of strange. So there was like easy parts to it, but I think it was definitely lonely at times because you couldn't see people. So it was really weird Like I remember once I did go into the office and we had like a meeting and we're all masked, and I like would set up the conference room because as the millennial in the office, like no one knows how to use the conference equipment a lot of
Here
the
we go.
time. And so like I had to like dial into the meeting, and it was a video meeting, and my boss at the time, who's in my company's Wilmington, Delaware office, she was like, "Oh my gosh, Caroline, like I have never seen you stand up on the video call." Because like it would always just be at my house, and like I was super pregnant at the time, and she was just like, "I like never even pictured you actually pregnant, even though I know you're pregnant." And I was just like, "Yeah, like it is a thing," and that sort of like comment makes it really like hit home that it was like a very like lonely time because I just couldn't share everything in the same way as if it was like in person. Even like
Did,
getting coffee with people would be like weird because like it would be like
right.
every couple of months as opposed to like weekly.
I think that I'm neither pro or against working at home or working at the office. I'm one of the people who probably do best a little bit of both. 2 days a week being home is great for me. That's like my sweet spot. But for you, I think about people who maybe relationships with you and your coworkers will be different by now. I think about you and I when we met. I remember the day you were interviewed or kind of walked past my office and I was in Expo. But then when I joined Phil's Institute side, we were kind of like on the same hallway. So just to think of the relationships that may or may not happen, if there's a pandemic in 2000, whatever year that was, 14, 15, when you first got there and when I kind of changed over to Fuels. But so it could have been different. Did you have anything in person for before he was born? Like, was there a shower like down in your hometown or no?
So we did a shower in DC, and it was outside, and like my parents came up and
Good.
Seth's mom and grandma came up. And it was outside, and his friends. It was right when vaccines were starting to roll out. And like I had been vaccinated.
Okay.
I think maybe like half of the people who were there had been vaccinated, but like everyone was masked. And it was probably the first time in over a year that people had gotten together. And we like to do everything. So some people, when they have like baby showers or wedding showers or even like birthday celebrations, they like don't like to combine their groups of friends. And I am like a one and done person. Like I don't like, I would love for all of my friends to like mingle with each other. Like I don't care if they're from like this side or like this side or like from this time in life. Like everyone could just like get together.
Right.
And it was the first time I think people had been in a group like bigger than like 5 people. And I think at most we probably had like 20 people at one point, like outdoors.
Right.
And it was a little uncomfortable, but I think most of that was because it had been so long since we had done anything in person. And some of the people who came, it had been over a year since I had seen them just because of all COVID stuff.
Wow.
So for them to see me pregnant, but it was like, oh, you're actually like super pregnant. Like it was about 4 or 5 weeks before I actually ended up having Miles. And so it was just kind of like, oh yeah, you're like really pregnant. And I'm like, yeah, like I am. And so it was nice, but it was like the only real like in person thing that probably happened during my pregnancy where like most people that I hadn't seen or that I wasn't seeing except like once every couple of months, like got to see me, got to get together and celebrate, which was really nice to go into it because I had definitely at times been like really like lonely and sad about the idea of
Sure.
like not being able to like celebrate something exciting with like all your friends and family.
I get that. I don't get that, but I can
You've never been pregnant?
imagine
I'm
something. I
shocked.
haven't, and we haven't, and no.
I would have
Yeah,
thought that you would have
no.
birthed someone, Donovan. Just
I birthed
you
Nico.
have the
Does that
figure
count?
for it, so I'm just gonna
It's ay, ay, ay. I don't miss working with you. So glad they
yes
got rid
you
of you.
do.
They were better when they got rid of you. So, question: the reason I'm doing this podcast is not just for me and for kicks and people meeting all my friends, but more so for anyone out there who's in a different place in life, no matter where they are. And I thought about you specifically, besides the reasons I mentioned in the beginning, because like you fit the profile for some people who may think life is okay. Life is always going to be easy because you're a white female, you have a white husband, you have a white baby because white people make white babies. And, DC, you're a millennial, you've got it made, everything's great. What could possibly go wrong? So tell me, where am I wrong in that? Is it just you get up every morning now with Miles, you kind of add him to your routine, and Brooklyn, your dog, everybody's like happy. You guys walk outside smiling, taking pictures for Instagram because I see your Instagram pictures and they're not always filtered like, everything's perfect. So like, tell me, what is it still difficult, no matter what position or where you are in life, to bring a new human into the world, try to give him the best life, and yet manage a pandemic, all the different politics that have been pushed into everything? We don't have to talk about that part, but more so, I'll narrow this question down. What's it like raising a human in a pandemic, regardless of where you are in life?
There's so many like things that just jump to my mind immediately. And I think the first thing is like Seth and I are super lucky. Just there's no other way to put it, that we're super lucky, we're super privileged, where we were in a financial position that we planned for this so that we could put Miles into a daycare, because we don't have friends or family that could like watch the baby during the day while we work or anything like that. Miles is a super chill kid. Like, he's really a chill baby. Like, I was prepared for kind of like the worst, like baby who never slept, a baby who cried all the time, and he just is like hangs out and like chills, and like that's about it. He like loves the dog, which was my number one concern, was like he wasn't gonna like dogs, and he like really likes Brooklyn. He like squeals really loud when he sees her, and it's like really great. But I think the challenge during this time is, especially for me, is you have no idea what you're doing. And I usually plan. I'm a planner. I'm someone who is super organized.
All right, pause right there.
Yeah.
Right, let me set that right there. For all those who are watching, those millions of people who are watching this who don't know Caroline, that statement, those words together in one line, never really happen. There's not much I've seen you face with professionally, or even before Miles, that you would just kind of go like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I don't know what I'm doing. Even when you didn't know professionally, you would figure it out, and nothing seemed impossible.
Or smile, and everyone knows.
You carried it with confidence. Yes, everyone's like, man, Caroline, she's so smart, and but still, even if you have it all together, raising a baby apparently isn't easy. No. Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah,
with this?
and okay. I think there's your own individual aspect of it, of where like truly like I have like no idea what I'm doing. Like I prepared, read books, listened to podcasts, took training videos, like did all of the things, and you just never know what is going to happen. And for someone like me, like I am constantly anxious. I have like a ton of anxiety about everything. And even though I have a ton of anxiety about like raising this human, you have to kind of put that aside, because I think the best way to explain it is like you're going to be anxious because you are raising a human no matter what, and that something could always go wrong. Like we're in a phase, like an example is like we're in a phase where we're starting to introduce like solid foods, and it's like really scary because they have to like learn how to eat. Like when you think about like a kid, and you literally have to learn everything, like literally everything, which is just like insane. Like they have to like learn that they are hungry, and that when they cry, like that's them saying like I'm hungry, and like they have to like learn how to sit, and like all of these things where you're just like, wow, like you legitimately have to learn everything when you are born. Like you are born with literally like zero knowledge. And so to like teach a kid how to like eat food is like terrifying at times, because like what if they choke? Like what if he doesn't like any food and is like a picky eater? Like I was a picky eater as a kid. And it's just things where like you just have to like try it out, and like if something happens, you have to obviously like, we both have taken like CPR, first aid, like Heimlich classes, like all of those things in case there's like a need for that. But you also just have to do it, because if you don't, it's going to be harder later on to like introduce foods if you like don't do that. So it's just, you just have to kind of like, I just have to put my anxiety aside a lot of the time and be like, all right, like if I want him to experience things and try things and like not be constantly scared, like I have to like show that I'm also like not constantly scared about showing him those things, even though it's like I am, but I have to be like brave for him, which is strange because it's truly for someone else. It's truly living for someone else as opposed to like just living for yourself. And then I think the second part of it, which makes it hard and makes it where you really don't know what you're doing, is society really doesn't support, especially mothers. I think especially the pandemic has taught us that we as a country don't really look out for each other in the way that we maybe think that we do, and that mothers were the first to leave the workforce during the pandemic and are still not going back. And, like I said, like we're very privileged where we're in a situation where we have, childcare. Would I say it's affordable? Like, no, but we like knew that going into it. But so many people can't do that. And so many people have to watch their kids and work at the same time. And that means you can't give 100% to either one of those things because you are constantly being pulled in different directions. And it makes, especially, I think, a first-time parent, and I think of someone who is a first-time parent, or maybe they only have one kid, just not having anything that's telling them, like, you're doing a good job. Or, hey, this is tough. Like, here's this thing that can help you, whether that be, affordable childcare, or whether that be, universal pre-K or something where like, you're going to have childcare, or even like all the masking in schools and wanting kids to be like safe in schools. There's so little support. And that is to me, something where so many people could really benefit from such simple solutions that really shouldn't be controversial, but they are. But it makes being a parent and a first-time parent in a pandemic. Oh no, my microphone! I just hit it and it fell. But it makes being a parent that much harder because you don't have that societal backing of, yes, you're raising the next generation of people who can make this world better. Like let's help you make them better people. And instead, we just all have to kind of like do it ourselves.
That's, as a non-parent, that's an interesting way of saying it, because for everything else in life, it's always been, we all have to figure it out, get in line as fast as you can and keep it moving. Otherwise you'll get left behind. But you're saying basically, as a family that has, a good situation, it's difficult. Does it make you, or it can be difficult? It's not easy. It's always a challenge that you have to continue to meet. Has it changed your perspective of your own parents when it comes to raising you guys, or you and your brother? Or how did it have that type of, what did it do for you when it came to your own relationship with, no, let's not go into your own relationship with your parents, but more so, what did it do in terms of your respect for what they had to do?
I think it's put into perspective, one, how things have changed, that I think there's such generational differences. And I think every generation will say this. I think I've even had this discussion with my parents where it's like every generation thinks that like their generation knows better than the one before. But I think it's really highlighted some of the differences, I think, between what we, not just like my parents, because I think it's like a generation of parents, like what the generation of parents before me. And I'm a millennial, so most of my parents are like, all of my friends, for the most part, all of our parents are baby boomers. And that the things that were being taught to boomers about like childcare and child rearing and child raising is so different than things now. And that it doesn't make anything wrong. It just means that things are different. And I think then like translating that for not only myself, like thinking, what do I want to do differently? And then trying to think like, how do you explain what you want to do different than how you were raised, just because that you want things to maybe be different. And I think that's hard, but I think it also gives me appreciation for like when I think of the times where, my parents were trying to figure out the scheduling of, like, I was a very active kid. And my brother had other activities too, but like I was like 12 times more active than he was. Like I was in every club, I was in every sport. That thinking about them having to figure out in like the 90s and like early 2000s, because I'm a young person. And Donovan, you may not get this because like you were probably like in a nursing home in the 90s, but anyway, but I had to throw that in there. But like figuring out all this like scheduling and even like these logistical things is like hard now. But it must have been so much harder when you didn't have like a cell phone, or you didn't have the ability to like reach someone at any time, or like you had to like leave your job at a certain time every day because you had to like go pick up your kid, and there was not the ability to say like, oh, like I can go home and finish my work. I can go pick up my kid and then I'll like work for 2 more hours at home after they go to bed or anything like that. So it's given me an appreciation for how much sacrifice parent puts towards their kid doing activities, which I was not going to get a scholarship in basketball. Like that was clear from early on. But I did basketball until I was mid high school. And eventually, yes, I could drive.
When
but
someone says they did basketball,
yeah.
that kind of,
I did basketball.
that's
played basketball.
probably what gives it away. Yeah.
And played in different different leagues, and not just your school league, but an AAU league, and then another club league, and all these things where it's I was not that good. So it was not they were doing this because they were oh, she's gonna get a scholarship, and they were doing it because I liked it, and they liked what I liked. And so that sort of sacrifice, I think, is now in so much more perspective for me now, even with a 7-month-old who doesn't do activities because he can't crawl yet. So he just sits there. Yeah, he just sits there. And I'm cool. But I think of all the sacrifices I'll have to make, but it will be so much easier in 2020s as opposed to 1997.
Right. Oh, God, I hate you so much. So just as a closing thought, what would you say without, I don't want to throw politics into it, but just human, or as the next term, humanistic. What, how'd that feel? What would you say you wish society would do, not only for just families, meaning, mother, father, and at the home, but also single parents? Anyone who has a baby, anyone who's raising a young human, what would you say is an ideal scenario to make it easier and empathetic to that challenge of raising successfully a little person in this life?
So I have,
what would you
so I have
to
two
happen?
things. One is a concrete example, and one I think is a more intangible thing. The concrete example is as a country, we need paid family leave. 100%. We need at least 12 weeks paid family leave, which is where right after you have a baby, or whether or not that be you physically have a baby, you adopt a baby, anything like that, however you come into being a parent, we need at least 3 months, which is the bare minimum in my opinion, because you need that time to not only bond with your child, but it is hard. Those first couple of months, whether or not it's a newborn or whether or not you're adopting someone or however it is, those first couple of months are super difficult. If you did birth the baby, physically, it's very, very hard. It's very hard. You're in a new space. Emotionally, your hormones have been all crazy. And then you have the baby and then your hormones are crazy again because you now are not pregnant anymore. You just had to birth the baby, whether or not you delivered vaginally or a C-section, both are super hard, and recovery is not great, and it's just tough. You're sleep deprived and everything, and it's just really tough. And I think that is the bare minimum that I think would really set people up in a more positive way, because studies show other countries, we're one of 7 countries in the world that don't have paid family leave, which is really? Holy crap, that is awful. But studies have shown that sets people up professionally to be better. So if you have paid family leave, which only I think it's 26% of Americans have paid family leave, which is insane. And I'm one of those lucky people, which is great. And I took 4 months, which was a godsend. But that sets you up to professionally stay at a job longer. It sets you up to be a higher performer at your job, which is good for the economy. So people who are it costs money, okay, well, also, do you want to know what costs money? People not being in the workforce, and then having to be on any sort of government assistance because they can't work because they have to take care of their children or they're recovering from something. And paid family leave can also cover not just birth, but it can cover if you have to be a caretaker for someone, if someone has an injury or an illness or something like that. You can also use it if you just need a mental break. The idea of paid leave is not just oh, you have to be sick or ill. Yeah, it's
Vacation.
it can be you are burned out and you need to take a month off and just get in a better headspace. And that stuff is just so important because it's something that we should all not only push our elected leaders to have and vote for. And a state level, DC actually has a really good for a city on its own paid family leave and program, which is great. if anyone listening needs any guidance, I would be happy to walk you through what I learned during this process. But I think that's important. Like this paid family leave sets you up for so much success after the fact, which I think just means it's going to be that much easier if you've had that time at the beginning. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it means it's going to be easier, which is important. And I think the intangible thing is just like checking in on your friends and family who are new parents, whether or not they are like they have a significant other or they are a single parent. Checking in on them. I think my second month postpartum was the hardest month because the first couple of weeks, everyone is so supportive. Everyone calls you and they text you and they like check in on you and you're like, great. And the first month, like the baby does nothing except sleep. Like they literally sleep and eat and like that is it. And so when people are like, oh, like, yeah, the newborn stage is hard. It's like, yeah, it's super hard, but like wait till they're awake for more than like 20 minutes at a time. Like right. Then that's hard. So then you get to month 2 as the baby starts doing more stuff and then like everyone disappears. And it's not because I obviously think that people don't care about you, but it's because that newness is gone. That like initial shock that this person is a parent is gone. And the second month for me was super tough because I was like, wow, like where is everyone? No one's sending meals anymore. And I've like made my own personal pledge that anytime someone is becoming a parent or even going through something that is tough, that I am now going to reach out to them. Whether, obviously each individual situation is different, but figure out a cadence that works for that person to be like, all right, I'm going to text this person like every week and say like, hey, how are you doing? And just, check in, or, I'm going to save any meals that I send to people post having a baby till the second month, because I'm going to be like, that's when you're really going to need it. When like you've eaten all the freezer meals and people have sent you all the pizza they can send you. And suddenly they're like, holy crap, it is Tuesday and we have no food. And that's what I'm going to be like, would you like food? Because that's really what people need, is kind of that like, that constant support. That's not necessarily all the time, but that like, I'm trying to think of the word for it. Like occasional. Yeah.
Just hang out there.
Whatever. But just to check in on people and actually ask them how they're doing and wait for them to respond and say like, is that actually how you're doing? Like, what do you need? Like, do you need to vent? Do you need 10 minutes to like take a shower? Do you need me to come over and like watch a baby monitor? Something like that just, I think can really help someone who might just be in a place where they don't feel like they can ask for help. And I think that was my problem. It was really hard to say to my friends or family, like, what, like, hey, like I am feeling lonely and I am feeling like everyone forgot that I just went through this big life change. Check it on me.
Especially if you're a personality like yours, if you're confident, if you're usually the one taking charge and just seeming I'm okay, people definitely, instead of it being a thing of, yes, I'm strong for you, that doesn't mean you can't be strong for me because I'm going to need it. But because you don't put it out there like, hey, I'm having a bad day, or you're posting negative things, people kind of just go, well, Caroline's fine. She's okay. She's fine. She's smiling. Oh, she's got Seth. They're okay. But I think that's a good thing to note, that people, no matter where you are in life, no matter what people may perceive you to be, like you said, we're just people. And you've always told me, we're just people. They're just people. Don't be afraid of them. But at the same respect, people all need empathy. People all need care, not when it's needed, not only when it's needed, but also when you're not thinking something's going on. That casual text. And I think we've talked about that a lot on our own in terms of friends who reach out when it's obvious, and then your real friends who are the ones who reach out when it's quiet. So
yeah,
I agree with
it's
that.
so important. I think if the pandemic has taught us anything, we do, even though I think we've all realized that we don't support each other like we need to, people need to start realizing, but we do need to support each other like we need to, and how we all might not realize we need to. So listeners, millions of listeners, send someone a text today that says, sup, you good? You okay?
Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that.
You need some Uber Eats gift cards?
I will say this, and
I'll send you food. Just put that out there.
I'm going to wrap this with this. I will say she's not just speaking it, folks. She did it for me and Shelly. Won't go into the situation, but just basically that's what people are supposed to do. That's what friends are supposed to do, not just on anniversaries or special occasions or annual events or something you think you should do. Just do it because you never know what people need. I talk about that all the time personally. And I think, well, I'm glad. I didn't really like Miles at first.
He was also like a blob, kind of. Like when you met him, he like didn't do much, so he was like a blob. Like
it's like, this guy is kind of a jerk. Wow, he doesn't talk back or anything.
Next time you see him, he'll talk back.
But I'm glad he made you.
Out of it.
Nah, I'm good. I don't really like kids. I'm kind of like you when it comes to kids. Before Miles, like, yeah, kids. Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna edit that out. We're gonna wrap this up because everyone thought you were really nice. Now it's gonna go back to who they perceive you to be.
Fine.
So
kids are hard.
Yes. So Miles, your mom does love you.
I still don't know how to interact with other kids. I'm always like, hey.
Please.
Miles not bad. Other kids.
Yep. That's.
I know.
Poor kid. He's gonna.
It's okay. We're saving for therapy for him that we'll all need. So.
Good. Yes. Maybe when he does basketball, that's how he will be able to pay for it in the future.
When he's doing basketball and like shooting the ball into the goalpost.
All right. Well, thank you, Caroline, for making time for people to see exactly who you are as a person, and more so just to express the importance of empathy, the importance of no matter who you are, we are all people. Whether you're married, single, you're raising a child, you're by yourself, whatever the case may be, it is a lot, and it's not just over after the first month or the first year. It is a lifelong thing, and I'm sure even grandparents probably need encouragement dealing with their own grandchildren and their own children. So
you have Nico,
but thank you, Caroline. I do, and he is driving me crazy. So yes, I'm a very patient father. But that's it. I'm cutting this right now, so it's positive. Thank you, Caroline, as always. And yes, and I'm glad you were a part of this. And I think there are people out there who will listen who will benefit from it, whether they are in the child rearing age or if they have friends who are having children. They will think a little bit more about than just the day of birth. There's a lot more going on there, and especially about the parents, and especially for the mothers or anyone who's the primary caretaker. So thank you for dropping that knowledge, and thank you everyone for listening to another episode of In Your Atmosphere.